The drive to Briar Glen took 90 minutes through freezing rain that turned the highway into a skating rink. Mallory sat beside me, checking her makeup in the visor mirror, getting her performance face ready. That's what family dinners were for her. Performances. And I was the supporting actor who'd better not forget his lines. "Don't mention work," she said, snapping the visor closed. "Dad's sensitive about the layoffs at his firm." I wasn't planning to. "And don't drink too much, you get mouthy when you drink." I kept my eyes on the road. 3 years of marriage had taught me when to argue and when to just drive. This was a driving moment. The Weller house glowed like a Christmas catalog. Every window perfectly lit, every decoration coordinated. Patrice answered the door in a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my truck payment. "Mallory, darling!" She pulled her daughter into a hug that looked warm but felt calculated. "You look exhausted. They're working you too hard." Not, "You look beautiful." Straight to exhausted. That's how Patrice operated. Compliments wrapped around criticism. "Just busy season," Mallory said, slipping into her daughter voice. "Managing the admin department keeps me running." "I'm sure it does." Patrice turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan, still at the supply company?" Still, like I was stuck in place while the world moved forward. "Still managing logistics," I said. "Someone has to make sure construction projects don't fall apart." Don Weller appeared from his study, scotch in hand, wearing that expression he saved for people he tolerated but didn't respect. "Ethan, roads bad?" "Slick, but manageable." "Course they are, not like Portland's far." He gestured toward the dining room. "Let's eat. Prime rib's getting cold." Dinner was exactly what I expected. Perfect food, perfect table settings, perfectly awful conversation. Don held court at the head of the table, Patrice orchestrated everything from the other end, and Mallory played the role of successful daughter whose only flaw was her choice of husband. "So," Don said, cutting into his meat with surgical precision, "Mallory mentioned you two are looking at home renovations." I wasn't looking at anything, but I'd learned to recognize my cues. "We've discussed it," I said carefully. "Discussed." Don chewed that word like tough beef. "That's diplomatic. Your wife showed us the plans for a sunroom addition. Beautiful work. Expensive work. Here it comes," I thought. "Assuming the finances are solid," Don continued, looking at me over his wine glass. "Big projects need big budgets. You comfortable with that kind of investment?" Comfortable. The word hung in the air like a challenge. "We're reviewing the numbers," I said. Patrice dabbed her lips with a napkin. "It must be stressful, trying to keep up with Mallory's income level. She works so hard at the hospital network." And there was the knife, slipped in so smoothly, I almost didn't feel it. "We both contribute," I said. Don laughed. "Contribute? That's generous, son. But let's be realistic. Mallory's the one with the career trajectory. You manage shipments. There's a difference between a career and a job." The word shipments came out like he was describing garbage collection. "Dad," Mallory said softly, but there was no force behind it. She wanted this conversation. She'd probably scripted it. "I'm just saying," Don continued, "a man provides for his family. That's fundamental. And if he can't provide at the level his wife deserves, he needs to step up or make room for someone who can." Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger. Something quieter than anger. The feeling you get when you finally understand a game you've been playing wrong for years. "You're right," I said. Don blinked. "What?" "You're absolutely right. I should contribute more." I pulled out my phone. "Give me 1 second." Mallory's hand shot across the table. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "Making a call." I found Nadia Klein's number, my bank manager. 3 weeks ago, after Mallory had locked me out of our credit card by reporting it lost, Nadia had suggested some safeguards. We'd set up a security protocol, just in case. The call connected. "Nadia, it's Ethan Grady. I need to execute the security hold we discussed. Authorization phrase, December crown. Pause. Then Nadia's professional voice, confirmed. The hold will be active in 90 seconds. I hung up. Mallory's face went pale. What did you just do? Before I could answer, her phone started buzzing. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. She looked at the screen and her expression shifted from confusion to fury. You froze the account. I initiated a fraud review on a suspicious transfer, I said calmly. Standard banking security. There's no fraud. Then the review will clear it up. Shouldn't take more than a few days. Don's face was turning purple. Now you wait just a minute? No, I said, and my voice came out harder than I'd intended. You wait. You've spent this entire dinner explaining how I don't contribute enough, how I'm not man enough to provide for your daughter, how I'm basically a parasite on her success. Fine. Let's see how that success looks without my contribution. Patrice clutched her pearls, literally clutched them. Ethan, this is completely inappropriate. What's inappropriate is treating me like hired help at my own family dinner. I stood up. Mallory, I'll be in the car. Take your time saying goodbye. I walked out of that perfect house into the freezing rain, got in my truck, and waited. That's when I noticed the gift bag on the hall table as I'd passed it. A bottle of wine with a card attached. The tag read, Happy Holidays from Briar Glen Community Sponsors. Brent Halstead, Coordinator. Brent Halstead, the name Mallory had mentioned 3 times in the past month. Always casual, always in passing. Just a colleague. Really good networker. Helps with community outreach. His gift bag was in her parents' house. Mallory came out 20 minutes later, got in the passenger seat, and stared straight ahead. That was unacceptable, she said. Which part? Your father calling me inadequate or you sitting there and letting him? He wasn't calling you inadequate. He absolutely was. And you wanted him to. You set this whole thing up. She turned to me, her face cold. You're paranoid. I'm paying attention. There's a difference. We drove back to Portland in silence. She went straight to the bedroom when we got home. I stayed up, sitting in the dark living room, thinking about gift bags and gift horses and the gift of finally seeing clearly. My phone buzzed. Nadia. Review initiated. Joint account frozen for 48-72 hours pending verification. FYI, the flagged transfer was to an account ending in 7742, not your joint savings. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I started looking for answers. I woke up Tuesday morning to an empty house. Mallory had left early. No note, no text, just gone. Her car was missing from the driveway. Nadia called at 8:30. We need to talk about the account situation, she said. I figured. The transfer you flagged was to an individual account, not joint. It's in Mallory's name only. She opened it 11 months ago. 11 months. Almost a year she'd been moving money without telling me. How much has she transferred? I asked. Total, just over $32,000. I sat down. $32,000. From the joint checking account, in increments of $500 to $2,000. Regular transfers spread out over time. Current balance in that account is about $19,000. Meaning she spent $13,000 of it. I can't see what she spent it on without a subpoena. But yes, roughly $13,000 is unaccounted for. Can I stop her from accessing that money? It's her individual account. Legally, no. But the joint account freeze will hold for the review period. After that, unless we find actual fraud, it reopens. How long do I have? 72 hours maximum. Use them wisely. I hung up and started searching. Not illegally. I'm not that stupid. But everything I had legal access to, I accessed. Joint tax returns, credit card statements, the house deed, insurance policies, our shared digital calendar. 2 hours later, I had a picture forming. The house. Down payment. $45,000 from my savings. Mallory's contribution, 0. She'd been between jobs and promised to make it up later. She hadn't. the joint checking account. We both deposited our paychecks, but the withdrawals told a different story. Regular transfers to savings that should have built up a cushion. Except the joint savings account only had $12,000 in it. The money had been going somewhere else, to account 7,742. I pulled up our shared calendar and cross-referenced it with Mallory's credit card statements. She kept everything meticulously organized: doctor appointments, work meetings, social events. But when I compared the calendar to the credit card charges, there were gaps. Charges at restaurants during times she'd marked as working late. Hotel bar charges on nights she'd said she was at administrative conferences. Not proof of anything by itself, but a pattern. My phone rang. Mallory. "We need to talk," she said. "Okay. I'm staying at my parents' for a few days, to give you space to calm down." "I'm calm." "You're not. You froze our account in the middle of dinner. You humiliated me in front of my family. I initiated a security review on a suspicious transfer. That's not humiliation. That's due diligence." "There was no suspicious transfer. I was moving money into savings, into an account I didn't know existed, for 11 months. Silence. "How did you—" she started. "The bank told me. When I asked about the flagged transfer. They told me exactly where the money went. That's my private account. Funded with our joint money, money I earned, money you took without asking. I didn't take anything. I was protecting our assets." "From what?" "From you. From your inability to plan ahead. From your small-minded approach to our future." There it was, the truth finally coming out. "So you stole from me to protect our future," I said. "That's your story. It's not stealing when it's marital property. It is when you hide it. That's called conversion, and it's illegal. You're being ridiculous. I'm trying to build something for us, and you're treating me like a criminal. Then come home. Show me the account statements. Explain where $13,000 went. Prove you're not hiding anything." Another silence. "I don't have to prove anything to you," she said finally. "I'm the one who's been carrying this marriage financially and emotionally. I'm the one with the real career. You're just angry because you finally have to face the fact that you're not enough." She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling something shift. Not heartbreak, that would come later. This was something colder, the feeling of a door closing and locking from the inside. I called my friend Darius. We'd met 2 years ago when his security company worked an event for one of my suppliers. He was former military, current private security, and the most straightforward person I knew. "You sound terrible," he said when he answered. "I need advice." "Bar or office?" "Bar." We met at Murphy's, a dive on the edge of Portland that didn't ask questions and didn't care about drama. Darius was already there, nursing a beer and looking like someone who'd seen too much and been impressed by none of it. I told him everything: the dinner, the account, the transfers, the gaps in the calendar. "She's cheating," he said when I finished. "I don't know that for sure." "You know it. You just don't want to say it." He finished his beer. "You want my advice? Document everything. Don't confront her yet. Just document. Because if this goes where I think it's going, you'll need proof." "Proof of what?" "That you're not crazy. That you're not the villain. That when she tells her version of this story, you have facts to counter it." He was right. I went home and started documenting. I photographed every statement, every receipt, every calendar entry. I created a timeline of suspicious charges and phantom meetings. And then I found the storage unit. It was listed on our joint credit card. A monthly charge of $500 to safekeep storage on Route 202. The charge started appearing 2 months ago. I'd never rented a storage unit. But according to the rental agreement I found in Mallory's desk drawer, we had one. Unit 237. Both our names on the contract, which meant I could access it legally. Thursday evening, I drove out to Route 202. The facility was standard. Rows of units, bright lights, keypad entry. I used the code from the rental agreement. Unit 237 was in the back. Inside, I found Mallory's exit strategy, boxes of her personal items, old photo albums, jewelry from before we were married, documents in a locked file box I didn't touch. I wasn't going to cross that line. But there were also newer things. Clothes I'd never seen her wear, shoes still in boxes, gift bags from stores we'd never shopped at together, and in the corner, a plastic bin containing an empty cell phone box, a cheap Android, a burner. I photographed everything with my hands visible in each shot, proving I hadn't disturbed anything. Then I locked up and left. Driving home, my phone buzzed. Mallory. Stop digging. You're only going to hurt yourself. She'd gotten an alert that someone accessed the unit. The rental agreement had both our phone numbers for notifications. I didn't reply, because I'd just found something more valuable than answers. I'd found leverage. Friday morning, Darius called. I asked around about Brent Halstead, he said. And? He's a networker, shows up at every charity event, every fundraiser, every community breakfast in Briar Glen. Always working the room, always making connections. That's not illegal. No, but he's been seen with your wife. A lot. Coffee meetings, lunch meetings, evening events. People noticed. How long? Best guess? 4 months. Maybe longer. 4 months. Which lined up with when the storage unit started, when the mysterious transfers began ramping up. There's something else, Darius said. Halstead has a history. 2 years ago, he got involved with a married woman on the hospital foundation board. When her husband found out, there was a scene at a gala. She ended up quietly removed from the board. Halstead apologized and moved on. He's a coward. He's a survivor, and he's good at making women think he's their ally against their terrible husbands. After I hung up, I did what I should have done weeks ago. I drove to downtown Portland and met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Kern. She had gray hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of reputation that made other lawyers nervous. I showed her everything. The statements, the transfers, the storage unit photos, the timeline. She reviewed it all without comment. Then she looked up. This is solid, she said. Your wife has been systematically moving marital assets into a hidden account and preparing for an exit. That's going to matter in court. How much? Maine is equitable distribution. The court divides assets fairly, not necessarily equally. But if we can prove she was hiding money and planning to claim financial abuse while actually being the one committing financial fraud, that changes the calculation significantly. What do I need to do? Keep documenting. Don't destroy anything. Don't do anything that could be construed as harassment or stalking. And be prepared for her to escalate. Escalate how? She's going to paint you as unstable, as controlling, as possibly dangerous. She'll build a narrative where she's the victim and you're the problem. It's textbook strategy for someone planning a favorable divorce. Patricia was right. That afternoon, I got a call from my employer's HR department. They wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss concerns raised by a third party regarding workplace conduct. The complaint came from Brent Halstead. He claimed I'd been using company resources to stalk and harass a community member's family. It was completely false. I'd never used work computers for personal searches, never made personal calls during work hours, never done anything that could remotely qualify as misuse of company resources. But it didn't matter. The complaint was on record. I called my boss, Leonard, a guy who'd been with the company 20 years and valued data over politics. I saw the complaint, he said. It's weird. The details don't match our systems. We don't have access to personal phone records. We don't have tracking software. Because it's false. I figured. But HR has to investigate. Policy. Can you document that you weren't using company resources? Easily. Every personal call I've made has been on my cell during breaks. Every search I've run has been on my home computer. I can pull phone logs, browser history, whatever you need. Do it! Send it to me by Monday. And Ethan, be thorough. I spent the weekend building my defense. Phone records showing all calls to the bank, to Darius, to my attorney were made on my personal cell. Browser history showing all financial research was done on my home computer. Timesheets proving I'd never left work early or extended breaks for personal business. By Sunday night, I had a file that would clear me of any workplace misconduct. But I also had something else. Proof that Brent Halstead had filed a false complaint using his position as a community advocate to give himself credibility. That was libel. That was actionable. That was ammunition. Monday morning, Mallory came back to the house. She walked through like she was inspecting property, noting every small change. "You've been busy," she said. "Just organizing. The house looks different." I'd removed photos from the walls, rearranged furniture, locked the file cabinet that used to stay open. "I'm making space," I said. She walked upstairs. I heard drawers opening, closets being checked. When she came back down, her face was carefully neutral. "Where's the box from the spare bedroom closet?" "Which box?" "You know which one." "I moved some things into storage, for organization." "You had no right?" "I have every right. It's my house too. My storage unit too." She stepped closer. "You're playing games, Ethan, and you're going to lose." "Maybe, but at least I know I'm playing now." She grabbed her purse. "I'm filing a complaint with the police, about the harassment, about the unsafe environment you're creating." "Do it. They'll ask for evidence. When you can't provide any, they'll ask why you filed a false report." "It's not false." "Prove it." She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. An hour later, Detective Morrison called. Asked me to come in for a conversation about a domestic concern. I went with Patricia Kern. Morrison was professional, methodical, and clearly tired of other people's drama. He asked about the dinner, the account freeze, the storage unit, the canceled subscriptions. I answered every question calmly, providing documentation. "Has your wife threatened you?" Morrison asked. "No." "Have you threatened her?" "No." "Any physical violence?" "None." "Any destruction of property?" "None." Morrison made notes. "Your wife believes you're escalating toward violence." "My wife is building a narrative to support a favorable divorce settlement. There's a difference between actual danger and strategic accusation." Patricia added, "Detective, my client has extensive documentation showing financial deception on his wife's part. He's taken reasonable steps to protect his assets. Nothing he's done violates any law." Morrison nodded. "I'm inclined to agree, but I have to follow up on complaints. That's protocol." "Understood," I said. "One more question. Do you have any intention of harming your wife or her associate?" "None. I want a clean separation and fair division of assets. That's all." Morrison closed his notebook. "Then we're done. But Mr. Grady, whatever you're planning, make sure it stays legal." "It will," I said. As we left, Patricia said, "That went well. But the complaint is on record now. That's what she wanted. Documentation that you're being investigated." "Except I'm not being investigated. I answered questions and left." "In her version, you were questioned by police. That's all that matters for her story." She was right. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Alone. Tonight. BH." Brent Halstead wanted a meeting. I texted Darius. "Halstead wants to meet. What do you think?" Darius. "He's panicking. Meet him somewhere public. I'll be nearby." I texted Halstead back. "Murphy's Bar, 8 p.m. He showed up at 8:15, looking like a man who'd spent the day putting out fires. The too-wide smile was gone, replaced by tight-lipped tension. He slid into the booth without asking. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "Making what harder?" "This situation with Mallory. She's going through a difficult time. She needs support, not attacks." "She's cheating on me with you? And I'm the one attacking?" He leaned back. "It's not like that." What's it like then? It's complicated. She's been unhappy for a long time. You don't appreciate her. She deserves better. And you're better? I'm someone who listens, someone who sees her potential, someone who takes her to hotels and expensive restaurants on money she stole from our joint account. His jaw tightened. That's between you and her. It became my business when you filed a false complaint with my employer. That crossed a line. I was protecting her. You were lying, and now people know it. I pulled out my phone and showed him the documentation. Phone records, timesheets, the letter from my attorney outlining grounds for a defamation suit. I can prove everything, I said. And unless you want your reputation destroyed across every organization in this county, you'll back off. He stared at the screen. This isn't over. You're right, because I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. He stood up, hands shaking. Mallory was right about you. You're not stable. I'm extremely stable. I'm just done being invisible. He left without another word. Darius appeared a minute later. That went well. He's scared. Good. Scared people make mistakes. The invitation to the New Year's charity gala arrived Wednesday, a thick cream envelope with embossed lettering and a donor ticket. I hadn't requested an invitation, but I knew who'd arranged it. I met Cal Mercer the next day at a diner on the edge of town. Darius had made the introduction. Cal was the kind of man who knew everyone, helped everyone, and somehow always came out ahead. A fixer, a facilitator, a man who traded in favors. Ethan, he said, shaking my hand, I've heard interesting things. From who? People who matter. He smiled. Darius says you need some strategic positioning. I need visibility. I need my wife and her boyfriend in a public setting where their behavior becomes obvious. The New Year's gala at Briar Glen Country Club. Mallory's on the planning committee. Halstead's the coordinator. 200 guests, silent auction, open bar, lots of cameras, lots of witnesses. You can get me in? Already did. That invitation you got? You're a donor now. Small donor, but legitimate. You'll be at table 7, near the auction display. And what do you want in return? A favor, someday, something I'll ask for and you'll be in a position to grant. It was the devil's bargain. But I was past caring. Deal, I said. Cal pulled out a tablet. The gala is New Year's Eve. Doors at 7, event starts at 8. Black tie. The auction requires signature verification for bids over 5,000, notary on site, security cameras throughout the venue. Mallory will be there. She doesn't have a choice. Planning committee members are expected to attend. Halstead will be working the room all night. And you can make sure they interact? I can create opportunities. What happens in those opportunities is up to them. As I stood to leave, Cal said, One warning. Mallory's smarter than Halstead. When this falls apart, she'll throw him under the bus to save herself. Be ready. I spent the week preparing. Bought a suit, studied the venue layout. Practiced staying calm, because the worst thing I could do was lose control in public. New Year's Eve came cold and clear. I arrived at the Briar Glen Country Club at 6:45. The ballroom was perfect. Chandeliers, white tablecloths, a stage with podium and microphone. Silent auction tables lined one wall. Darius was already there in his security uniform, professional and invisible. Everything's set, he said quietly. Camera logs running. Notary at table 12. Mallory arrived at 7:45 in a dark blue dress I'd never seen. Hair perfect, smile perfect. She saw me immediately. Her face did something complicated. Composure fighting with calculation. She walked over. What are you doing here? I'm a donor. I bought a ticket. You're trying to humiliate me. I'm attending a charity event. If that humiliates you, ask yourself why. She leaned close. If you make a scene, I will destroy you. Everyone here will know exactly what kind of person you are. Looking forward to it, I said. She walked away. The event started at 8. Speeches, sponsor recognition. Brent Halstead at the podium, smiling that too-wide smile, thanking everyone for their generosity. He looked at me once. I saw the fear behind the performance. At 9:30, the silent auction opened. People crowded the tables, writing bids, pretending casualness. I walked slowly through the displays, watching where Mallory went, where Halstead positioned himself. At 9:45, I saw my chance. Halstead was alone near the back corridor leading to the parking garage, checking his phone, looking stressed. I approached slowly, hands visible. He saw me and tensed. "We keep running into each other," I said. "Stay away from me. This is a public event. You're harassing me." "I'm walking through a ballroom." I kept my voice calm. "But since we're talking, I know you've been in my house. I know you helped Mallory pack that storage unit. I know you filed a false complaint with my employer." His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And soon everyone else will too." He started to walk away. I said one more thing, quiet but clear. "You took something that wasn't yours. And there's always a price for that." He ran, not walked fast, actually ran through the corridor toward the exit, moving fast enough that people turned to watch. Darius appeared beside me. "What did you say?" "The truth." 20 minutes later, I heard the announcement over the venue PA. "Would the owner of a silver BMW, license plate Seamunity, please see the front desk? Your vehicle has been towed from a fire lane." Halstead came back inside, face red, hands shaking. He found the event coordinator and started demanding answers. The coordinator, a tired woman in her 50s, simply said, "Sir, the fire lane is clearly marked. We don't make exceptions. This is ridiculous. This is policy." Halstead looked around the room, searching for someone to blame. His eyes landed on me. I raised my beer in a small salute. He started toward me. Darius stepped between us smoothly. "Sir, I need you to calm down," Darius said. "He called about my car." "I'm standing here drinking beer," I said. "Haven't left the building." "Sir," Darius said again, firmer now, "if you continue to escalate, I'll have to ask you to leave." Halstead looked around, realized people were watching, phones probably recording. He backed down, but everyone had seen it. Brent Halstead, community organizer, charity coordinator, losing control over a parking violation. Mallory appeared at my elbow. "Outside, now." I followed her to the patio, cold air sharp enough to hurt. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Attending an event." "You're sabotaging me. You're sabotaging everything. I'm watching you sabotage yourself. Brent is a good man. He's a coward who runs when challenged. And you chose him. That says everything about your judgment." She stepped closer, voice cold. "Thank you. Now everyone will believe you're harassing him." Except I didn't harass him. I had a conversation. He ran. Someone called about a fire lane violation. His reaction made him look guilty, not me. People will believe what I tell them. Then tell them. Let's see how that works. I walked back inside, leaving her in the cold. The rest of the evening was surreal. Halstead left early, claiming a family emergency. Mallory stayed, working the room like nothing had happened. But I could see the cracks. At midnight, during the champagne toast, I stood at the edge of the crowd and watched Mallory pretend to be happy. And I realized something. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of losing control. Monday morning brought the expected HR meeting. I walked in with my documentation and Patricia Kern. The company's legal rep reviewed Halstead's complaint: stalking, harassment, intimidation. I slid my receipts, phone logs, and timesheets across the table. "This is everything proving I never used company resources for personal business," I said. "And this," I pulled out another document, is a letter from my attorney outlining grounds for a defamation suit against Mr. Halstead based on his false complaint. The legal rep read it. Her eyes narrowed. This is aggressive. So is lying to get someone fired. By the end of the meeting, they were satisfied I hadn't violated any policies. But as I left, the legal rep said, "Be careful, Mr. Grady. This situation is escalating." "I'm counting on it," I said. That afternoon, Nadia called. "Mallory's been making large transfers, another 8,000 over the past week. She's draining the joint account. Can I stop it?" "Not without a court order, but you can protect your share. Transfer half into a separate account before she takes it all." I did exactly that. Opened a new account at a different bank. Transferred half the joint balance, left enough for the mortgage and utilities. Then I started canceling subscriptions. Every streaming service, meal kit, gym membership that was in my name but she used. It took her 3 days to notice. She called Thursday evening. "You canceled the streaming services." "I canceled my subscriptions. I use those." "Then open your own accounts." "This is petty. This is practical. We're clearly not operating as partners anymore." She hung up. That night, I found a draft email on our shared tablet. She'd forgotten to delete it. Subject: Documentation for Protective Order. The email listed my concerning behaviors: monitoring finances, unexpected appearances at events, confrontations with a mutual acquaintance, canceling services as punishment. She was building a case for a restraining order. I screenshotted it and sent it to Patricia. Patricia called back within an hour. "This is bad. If she files and a judge grants it, you're out of the house. You need to file for legal separation first. Control the narrative." "How fast?" "I can have papers ready by Monday." "Do it." Friday, Mallory came back to the house, walked through inspecting everything. "You're acting like this is your house," she said. "It is, half of it anyway." "We'll see about that." She went upstairs, checked drawers, closets, looking for something specific. When she came down, her face was neutral. "Where's the box from the spare bedroom?" "I moved things into storage." "You had no right." "I had every right." She grabbed her purse. "I'm filing a complaint with the police about the harassment." "Go ahead. They'll ask for evidence." She left. Detective Morrison called Saturday, asked me to come in. I went with Patricia. Morrison asked about the gala, the subscriptions, everything. I answered calmly, providing documentation. "Your wife believes you're escalating toward violence," Morrison said. "My wife is building a narrative for a divorce settlement," I said. "There's a difference." Patricia added, "My client has extensive documentation of financial deception. He's protecting his assets. Nothing illegal." Morrison nodded. "I agree, but I have to follow up." He looked at me. "Do you intend to harm your wife or her associate?" "None. I want a clean separation, that's all." Morrison closed his notebook. "Then we're done, but keep it legal." "Always," I said. Sunday afternoon, Patrice called. "Ethan, we're hosting a family gathering tomorrow to discuss this situation. We'd like you to attend." "An intervention?" "A conversation. A safe space for honesty." "A trap, you mean?" "Please come. We're worried about you." Against my better judgment, and on Darius's advice that refusing would look worse, I went. The Weller house. Same perfect decorations, but this time 6 cars in the driveway. Inside, Dawn, Patrice, Mallory, 2 cousins I barely knew, and a woman introduced as a family counselor. This was a production. "Ethan," Dawn said, "thank you for coming." There was one empty chair in the center, everyone else already seated in a semicircle. I stayed standing. "We're concerned," Patrice began. "Mallory has shared troubling information about your behavior. We wanted to create space for you to hear our concerns and hopefully recognize you need help." "What kind of help?" I asked. "Professional help," the counselor said softly. "Your wife describes controlling behavior, financial obsession, escalating confrontations. These are signs of someone struggling. Struggling with what? With the reality that your marriage is changing, with feelings of inadequacy, with fear of losing control. I looked at Mallory, hands folded, face composed, playing concerned wife. "Let me understand," I said. "Mallory takes $32,000 from our joint account without telling me, opens a secret account, fills a storage unit with her belongings, coordinates with another man to build a case against me, and I'm the controlling one?" "You froze her account," Don said. "I triggered a fraud review on a suspicious transfer." "You showed up at her event," a cousin added. "I attended a public gala. I bought a ticket." "You canceled her subscriptions," Patrice said. "I canceled subscriptions in my name, paid with my money." The counselor leaned forward. "Ethan, do you hear how defensive you sound? How focused on justifying rather than acknowledging the pain you're causing? I'm not causing pain. I'm responding to betrayal." "That's your perception, but perception isn't reality. Bank statements are reality. Receipts are reality. Storage units are reality." Mallory spoke finally. "I needed to protect myself." "From what?" "From this. From your anger. From your inability to accept that I deserve more than what you can provide." There it was. "You deserve more," I repeated. "More money? More status? A husband who doesn't ask questions when you steal from him?" "I didn't steal." "You took marital funds and hid them. That's theft." Don stood, face red. "You're calling my daughter a thief?" "I'm stating a fact. Whether that makes her a thief is for a judge to decide." "You need to leave," Patrice said. "I was just thinking the same thing." As I turned to go, the counselor said, "If you walk out, you're confirming everything Mallory said. You're proving you can't handle difficult conversations." "This isn't a difficult conversation. This is theater, and I'm not interested in my role." I walked out, got in my car, saw Don in the doorway with his phone out, probably recording me storming off. I waved, smiled, drove away. The days before the New Year's gala blurred together. Patricia filed separation papers Monday. Mallory would be served Tuesday. But I had one more move to make. Cal Mercer had mentioned that the gala would require signature verification for major auction bids, a notary on site, witnesses, everything documented. I'd prepared a simple document, an acknowledgement that Mallory owned the storage unit, had opened account 7742, and had transferred marital funds there. Nothing accusatory, just facts. New Year's Eve arrived. I got to the country club at 7. Darius was positioned near the entrance. Everything was set. Mallory arrived at 7:45 in a black dress, looking perfect. The event started at 8. Speeches, auction. Brent Halstead working the room, but I could see the strain. At 9, the auction bidding closed. Winners announced. Then the notary stood. "Anyone who pledged over $5,000, please come to table 12 to sign your pledge cards for tax documentation." 8 people stood, including Mallory. I watched her walk across the room, sign her card, shake the notary's hand. Then I approached. "Mallory." She turned. "Ethan, I need you to sign something too." I pulled out the envelope with my document. "What is this?" "A statement for the divorce proceedings." "I'm not signing that. You just signed a tax document without reading it. This one's simpler." The notary was watching. So were half a dozen witnesses. Mallory's face flushed. "You're doing this here? Now?" "I'm asking you to acknowledge facts. This is harassment. This is a legal document. You can refuse. But the notary's here, and there are witnesses. If you refuse to sign a simple acknowledgement that you own a storage unit and opened a separate bank account, people will wonder why." She stared at me, looked around, realized the trap. Sign and admit to hiding money, refuse and look guilty. "You," she whispered. "I'm a realist." Brent Halstead appeared. "Is there a problem?" "No problem," I said. Just asking my wife to sign a document acknowledging her own financial accounts. Don't sign anything, he told her. Mallory crumpled the document and threw it at me. I'm not signing that, and you're going to regret this. She walked away. Halstead followed. The notary looked at me with concern. Sir, are you all right? Fine. Thank you. At 9:30, I saw Mallory and Halstead arguing near the back corridor, her face flushed, his hands defensive. I walked casually that direction, staying back but close enough to hear. You said this was handled, Mallory hissed. You said he wouldn't be a problem. I didn't know he'd pull something like that in public. Because you don't think. You promised you'd handle the complaint, manage the narrative, make him look unstable. Instead, he made you look like a coward. I'm not the one who married him. Don't turn this on me. I trusted you. You used me. Mallory's voice dropped. You're panicking, and when you panic, you make mistakes. So figure it out, because if this falls apart, I'm not going down with you. What's that supposed to mean? It means I have documentation showing you initiated contact, texts showing you pursued me, records proving you filed a false complaint. If this gets ugly, I'll make sure everyone knows you're the problem. Halstead went still. You're threatening me. I'm protecting myself. She walked away. I stepped out. Trouble, I said. Halstead spun. You're following me. I'm attending an event. You're having a breakdown in a corridor. Stay away from me. You already said that. He started to leave. I said, she's going to sacrifice you. When this goes to court, she'll throw you under the bus. She just told you that. I don't need your advice. No, you need a lawyer. He turned back, shaking. You think you're so smart. You think you've won. But you haven't. Your wife is better than you. Smarter than you. Everyone will see you're just bitter. If she's so much better, I said quietly, why does she need you to fight her battles? He opened his mouth, closed it, walked away. Darius appeared. Got all that? Every word, cameras functioning perfectly. At 10, the program wrapped, band started, people danced. At 10:30, Halstead left, grabbed his coat, walked out. At 11, Mallory's phone buzzed. She looked at it, face tight, headed for the exit. I followed at distance, parking garage, covered structure, dim lighting. Halstead was pacing next to his BMW. What are you doing? Mallory demanded. Leaving. I'm done. You can't leave. I don't care about the event. I care about not being destroyed by your husband. He can't destroy you. He has everything, recordings, documentation, witnesses, and you just gave him more by threatening me. I didn't threaten. You absolutely did. Mallory looked around. This is your fault. You were supposed to be careful. I was careful. You got greedy. You had to freeze him out, build your case, make sure you got everything. I deserve everything. You deserve what you earn. Right now you're earning a reputation as a liar. Mallory moved fast, a sharp motion, hand connecting with his face. Not hard, more punctuation than assault, but enough. Halstead stepped back, shocked. You just get in your car and leave before I call security and say you're harassing me. You wouldn't. Try me. I stepped out from behind a pillar. She would, and she'd get away with it. They froze. How long have you been there? Mallory asked. Long enough. Halstead looked between us. This is entrapment. This is a parking garage. I'm allowed to be here. You're recording. I'm standing. If you've said things you regret, that's on you. Mallory's voice went cold. Ethan, if you use any of this, you'll what? File another complaint? Tell everyone I'm dangerous? I'll make sure you lose everything. You already tried. Halstead backed toward his car. I'm done. You two can destroy each other without me. Where are you going? Mallory demanded. Anywhere but here. He got in and drove away. Mallory and I stood in the cold garage. This was all you, she said. You orchestrated this. I attended an event. You destroyed yourselves. No one will believe that. They'll believe what they saw, you and your boyfriend arguing, him admitting false complaints, you threatening to sacrifice him, him running. She stepped closer, shaking with rage. You have no idea what you've done. I've exposed the truth. The truth is I'm better than you. I always have been. This pathetic revenge fantasy isn't going to change that. You're right. You are better. Better at lying, better at manipulation, better at making people feel small, but not better at being human. She turned to leave. Mallory? She stopped. When you file for divorce, make sure your lawyer knows about the recordings, the storage unit, the secret account, Halstead's complaint, all of it, because I'm not hiding anymore. She didn't respond, just walked back inside. I stood breathing cold air. Darius appeared. You got that? Every second. Then we're done. Not yet. One more thing. The morning after the gala, I woke to 17 missed calls, most from numbers I didn't recognize. My lawyer called first. Mallory's attorney contacted me at 7 a.m. They're filing for divorce and requesting an emergency hearing for asset division. Let them. I'm ready. They'll argue you orchestrated public humiliation, that you stalked her boyfriend, that you created a hostile environment. And I'll argue I responded to financial fraud, infidelity, and false accusations with documented facts. Do you have the recordings from last night? Video and audio. Mallory and Halstead arguing, him admitting to false complaints, her threatening to sacrifice him, all captured on venue security cameras I didn't control. My lawyer was quiet. That's perfect. I know. After hanging up, I reviewed the messages. People asking if I was okay, offering support, wanting the story. Small-town gossip moves fast. Nadia called at 9. Mallory tried to drain the joint account this morning. 6 a.m. transfer for the entire balance. I blocked it. How much? 14,000. Everything left. Block it permanently. I spent the day organizing documentation for court. Bank statements, security footage, text messages, the storage unit inventory, Halstead's false complaint, the draft email about the protective order, the parking garage recording, everything proving Mallory had spent months building a false narrative while stealing money and planning her exit. That evening, Detective Morrison called. Your wife filed another complaint, says you assaulted Brent Halstead at the country club. That's false. She says you confronted him in the parking garage, made threatening statements, became physically aggressive. I have security footage showing the entire interaction. I never approached within arm's reach, never touched him, never made threats. My lawyer slid a USB drive to Morrison. The footage is time-stamped and authenticated by venue security. Morrison watched it. His jaw tightened. This shows Halstead admitting to filing a false complaint, he said. It does. And your wife threatening him. It does. Morrison turned off the video. Mr. Grady, I'm being direct. Your wife is using my department to fight personal battles. This is the second complaint that doesn't hold up. If she files a third, I'm having a different conversation with her about wasting police resources. Understood. Stay away from her. And Halstead. Let the lawyers handle it. That's the plan. As we left, my lawyer said, You thought ahead. Most people don't. I'm done reacting. I'm done being the person Mallory could control. That night, one final text arrived. Unknown number. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. M. I didn't reply, because I wasn't happy, but I was free. The divorce hearing was scheduled for mid-January. 2 weeks away. I spent that time preparing with Patricia. We built the case methodically. Financial fraud. 32,000 transferred to a secret account over 11 months. Deception. Storage unit full of exit plan supplies, phantom calendar appointments, burner phone box, false accusations, Halstead's workplace complaint, police complaints, the protective order email draft, and the recordings. Mallory and Halstead arguing, her threatening to sacrifice him admitting he'd lied. This is one of the most complete cases I've seen, Patricia said. Your wife thought she was building a narrative, but she was actually building your evidence file. The week before the hearing, Mallory's lawyer tried to negotiate, offered to split assets 50-50 if I'd agree to seal the records. No, I told Patricia. They're trying to protect her reputation. She should have thought of that before she started this. Ethan, I have to ask, what's your end game? Revenge? Justice? What do you actually want? I thought about that. I want the truth on record. I want people to know I'm not the villain she tried to paint me as. I want her to face consequences for what she did. Then we go to hearing. January 15th arrived cold and clear. The courthouse was smaller than I expected. 1 room, 1 judge, 2 tables. Mallory sat across from me, looking perfect and composed. Her lawyer was expensive, gray suit, confident smile, stack of prepared statements. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Carver. She looked tired and unimpressed by everyone. Mallory's lawyer went first, painted me as controlling, obsessive, financially abusive, claimed I'd frozen her account without cause, stalked her associate, created an unsafe environment. Patricia stood. Your Honor, if I may. She presented the evidence systematically. The secret account showing 11 months of transfers. The storage unit photographs showing planned exit. The workplace complaint from Halstead, proven false by my employer. The police complaints, dismissed by Detective Morrison. The draft email about a protective order, showing premeditated narrative building. And finally, the parking garage footage. The judge watched in silence. When it ended, she looked at Mallory's lawyer. Counselor, your client testified that Mr. Grady froze her account without cause, but this evidence shows she'd been systematically transferring marital funds to a hidden account for almost a year. How do you respond? Mallory's lawyer cleared his throat. My client was protecting assets from potential financial irresponsibility by secretly taking them? Judge Carver raised an eyebrow. That's not asset protection. That's conversion. She looked at Mallory. Mrs. Grady, did you or did you not open an individual account and transfer over $30,000 from the joint marital account without your husband's knowledge? Mallory's composure cracked slightly. I was planning for our future. Answer the question, yes or no? Yes. And did you coordinate with Mr. Halstead to file a false complaint with your husband's employer? I didn't coordinate. Brent acted independently. The recording shows otherwise. It shows you threatening to use documentation against him if he didn't cooperate. That sounds like coordination to me. Mallory's face went pale. Judge Carver reviewed her notes. Here's my ruling. The marital home was purchased primarily with Mr. Grady's funds. $45,000 down payment from his savings. Mrs. Grady's contribution was 0. Mr. Grady will retain ownership of the home, with a buyout payment to Mrs. Grady of 20% of current market value, paid over 5 years. Mallory's lawyer started to object. The judge held up a hand. The joint savings account will be split evenly. However, the funds in account 7742, Mrs. Grady's individual account, will be considered marital property that was improperly transferred. Mrs. Grady will return half of those funds to Mr. Grady within 30 days. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Mrs. Grady filed multiple false complaints attempting to paint Mr. Grady as dangerous and unstable. This is documented by police records, employer statements, and video evidence. This behavior constitutes bad faith negotiation. Therefore, Mrs. Grady will be responsible for half of Mr. Grady's legal fees. The gavel came down. This marriage is dissolved. Final decree will be issued within 10 days. We stood. Mallory wouldn't look at me. In the hallway, Patricia smiled. That was a complete victory. It was the truth. Same thing, in this case. Mallory's lawyer caught up to us. My client would like to discuss the payment terms. No, I said. The judge ruled. We follow the ruling. He looked uncomfortable. Mr. Grady, perhaps we could work out something more flexible. Your client spent months trying to destroy me. She can spend the next 5 years paying for it. I walked out of that courthouse into January sunshine. My phone buzzed. Darius. How'd it go? Me. Complete victory. Darius. Drinks tonight? Me. Definitely. That night at Murphy's, Darius raised his beer. To justice. To documentation, I corrected. Same thing. Not always, but in this case, yeah. We drank in comfortable silence. Then Darius said, What are you going to do now? Move on. Fix up the house. Maybe travel. Definitely find a job where my boss's daughter doesn't try to ruin my life. You earned it. I survived it. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You destroyed me. I hope you're proud. I showed Darius. He shook his head. She still doesn't get it. She never will. In her version, she's the victim, and I'm the villain. And in reality? In reality, she played a game and lost. That's all. I blocked the number. We talked for another hour, about work, about life, about everything except Mallory. It felt good, normal, like I could finally breathe again. When I got home that night, the house felt different, lighter, mine. I walked through the rooms, noticing small things, the space where her photos used to be, the closet with room to breathe, the silence that wasn't oppressive anymore, just quiet. In the kitchen, I found one of her coffee mugs, left behind, probably forgotten. I thought about keeping it. A reminder, a trophy. Then I threw it away because I didn't need reminders of Mallory Grady. I'd spent 3 years living in her shadow, being the prop in her performance, playing the role she'd assigned me. I was done with roles, done with performances, done with being the person everyone thought they could control. I poured myself a beer and sat at my kitchen table, my table now, and thought about everything that had happened. The Christmas dinner that started it all. The account freeze that exposed the truth. The storage unit full of her escape plan. The gala where everything fell apart. The courthouse where it all ended. It wasn't a perfect victory. Perfect victories don't exist. But it was enough. Mallory had wanted to write me out of the story while taking everything I'd built. Instead, she'd written herself out of my life while I kept what was mine. That was enough. My phone buzzed one more time. Nadia. Just confirming, the transfer from account 7742 cleared. 16,000 deposited to your account. Mrs. Grady's obligation is complete. Thanks, Nadia. You did good, Ethan, standing up for yourself. A lot of people don't. I had good help. You had good documentation. That's what made the difference. After hanging up, I sat in my quiet house and allowed myself to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Relief, not happiness. That would come later, maybe. Not satisfaction. This had been too ugly for satisfaction. Just relief. Relief that it was over. Relief that I'd survived. Relief that the person staring back from the mirror wasn't the defeated man Mallory had tried to create. I was still standing. Still here. Still me. Outside, snow started falling. Soft, quiet, covering everything in white. Inside, I finished my beer and started making plans. For tomorrow, for next week, for the rest of my life. Plans that belonged to me and nobody else. And somewhere in Briar Glen, Mallory was probably telling her version of this story to anyone who'd listen. Painting herself as the victim, me as the villain, and her parents as the sympathetic chorus. Let her. Because anyone who mattered had seen the truth. And the people who didn't matter? I didn't care what they thought anymore. I'd spent 3 years caring about the wrong things. Mallory's approval, her parents' respect, the appearance of a successful marriage. All of it hollow, all of it performance. I was done performing. The house settled around me with small creaks and sighs. My house now, paid for with my money, my work, my decade of careful planning. Mallory would get her buyout payment, 5 years of monthly checks, a constant reminder that she'd bet everything on a narrative that fell apart under scrutiny. Brent Halstead had disappeared from Briar Glen entirely. Last I'd heard, he'd taken a job in Vermont, probably building the same network of favors and lies in a new town. That was fine too, because my story wasn't about them anymore. It was about what came next. I stood up, washed my beer glass, turned off the lights. Tomorrow, I'd start fresh. But tonight, I just stood in my dark kitchen, looking out at the falling snow, feeling the weight of the past 3 years finally lift. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee, sat at the table and made a list. Things I'd been putting off while living in Mallory's shadow. The deck that needed repairs. The spare room I'd wanted to convert into a home office. The hiking trip to Acadia I'd mentioned 3 years ago and never taken. Small things, personal things, things that belonged to me. At 9, my phone rang. Leonard from work. "Heard about the divorce," he said. "You doing okay?" "Yeah, better than okay, actually." "Good, because I wanted to talk to you about something. We're opening a new regional office, Bangor. Need someone to manage operations. Better pay, better title, fresh start. Interested?" I thought about Briar Glen, about the Weller house with its perfect decorations, about the country club and the gossip and the performance. "Yeah," I said. "I'm interested." "Great. We'll talk details Monday." Bangor, 2 hours north, far enough from Briar Glen that I wouldn't run into Mallory's social circle. Close enough to Portland that I could keep my friends. A fresh start, exactly what I needed. That afternoon I drove to the storage unit one last time. Unit 237, the one Mallory had filled with her exit plan. The rental agreement was in my name too, which meant I could cancel it. I cleaned it out, took her boxes of old photos and yearbooks, and left them on her parents' porch with a note, "These belong to you. Everything else is mine." Signed the cancellation form, turned in the key, drove away without looking back. Sunday, Darius came over, helped me start repairs on the deck. We worked in comfortable silence, just 2 guys with hammers and nails and no need for complicated conversation. "You seem different," he said finally. "I am different." Good different? Real different. For the first time in 3 years, I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. He nodded. "That's worth more than any divorce settlement." "Yeah, it is." We finished the deck as the sun set, stood back and looked at our work. "Not bad," Darius said. "Not bad at all." Monday morning, I met with Leonard, discussed the Bangor position, salary, benefits, responsibilities, everything clear and straightforward. I accepted. Start date, February 1st. 2 weeks away, time enough to pack, time enough to close this chapter, time enough to be ready for whatever came next. The next 2 weeks passed quickly. I packed my things, cleaned the house, prepared it for renters. I'd keep ownership, but I didn't need to live there anymore. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Bangor would be clean, new, mine. January 31st, my last day in the Portland house. I walked through one final time, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything. The living room where Mallory had performed for guests. The kitchen where we'd had our last real conversation. The bedroom where I'd realized my marriage was over, all empty now, all quiet. I locked the door and left the key with the rental management company. Drove north toward Bangor through winter sunshine. Toward a new job, a new apartment, a new life. Toward everything Mallory had tried to prevent. And as I drove, I thought about the Christmas dinner that started it all. The moment she'd said, "Stop begging for money," and I'd finally seen through the performance. The moment I'd called Nadia and frozen the account. The moment everything changed. People talk about revenge like it's always violent, always dramatic, always some grand gesture that destroys everything. But real revenge is quieter than that. Real revenge is surviving. Real revenge is refusing to be the person someone tried to make you. Real revenge is taking back control of your own story. Mallory had wanted to write me out while taking everything I'd built. Instead, I documented the truth and let her destroy herself. She'd lost the house, lost the money, lost her reputation, lost Brent Halstead, all because she'd underestimated the man she'd married. She'd thought I was weak, controllable, someone who'd accept whatever scraps she threw him. She'd been wrong. And now she'd spend the next 5 years sending me monthly checks, each one a reminder that she'd bet everything on a lie. That was revenge enough. I pulled into Bangor as the sun set, found my new apartment building, carried my box